Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the seminar about When, one of a poem retrieved from Lullabies books by Lang Leav. Let me introduce myself. My name is Karinda, Sembiring, and I will be serving you as your moderator today. First of all, I would like to thank to Bagus Mustain and Ashfyasari as presenters today. And also all audience, thank you for joining this seminar. Before we start the presentation, I would like to read the sequence of the seminar. This seminar is divided into 4 parts or 4 sessions. First, opening. Second, presentation. Third, conclusion. Fourth, closing. And the next, I would like to invite Bagus to present. So to Bagus, time is yours.
Definition of poetry. Poetry is a type of literary work whose language style is largely determined by rhythm, rhyme, and arrangement of arise and beat. Poetry writing is carried out in careful language and the right choice of words, thereby increasing people's awareness of the experience and giving special responses through the arrangement of sounds, rhythms, and special meaning. In writing, poetry contains all literary elements. The development and change of form and content in poetry always follows the development of tastes, the concept of aesthetic change, and the progress of human intellectualism. Poetry is able to create expression of thought that influence feelings and exchange the sense in a rhythmic arrangement. Poetry is delivered in language that has deep and interesting meanings. The content in the poem is a record and representative of a very important experience by humans. Some modern scholars have approached defining poetry not as a type of literary but as a manifestation of the human imagination, which is the short edition. Poetry is also an outpouring of one's heart that brings another person in a state of his heart. In poetry, a figure of speech is also commonly inserted, which makes the poetry even more beautiful. There are also various figures of speech, one of which is sarcasm, which is a direct sarcasm. Poetry sometimes contains only one word or syllable which is repeated over and over again. Poetry consists of two, namely old poetry and new poetry. Old poetry writers are usually still bound by certain rules. Meanwhile, new poetry is poetry that has no rules in writing. The things we need to pay attention to in reading poetry. 1. The accuracy of the expression. Expression is a statement of feeling the result of the inspiration of the poem. Mimics are facial expression. Kinesthetic, namely the movement of the limbs. Articulation clarity, namely accuracy in pronouncing words. Timbre is the sound color or developed. It has. Dynamic means loud, soft, high, and low sounds. Intonation or soundtrack. In a poem, there are 3 types of intonation, including first, dynamic stress, namely stress on words that are considered important. Second, tone pressure, namely the high and low pressure on the sound. For example, a high voice describes joy, anger, amazement, and so on. A low voice expresses sadness, resignation, doubt, despair, and so on. Third, pressure tempos, namely fast and slow pronunciation of syllables or words. Poetry elements include the physical structure and inner structure of the poem or poetry. A. The physical structure of the poem. The physical structure of the poem consists of first, composition of poetry or typography, which is a form of poetry such as pages that are not filled with words. Right, left edge, line arrangement, two lines of poetry that do not always start with capital letters and with a period. These things really determine the meaning of the poetry. Second, diction, namely the selection of words made by the poet in his poetry. Third, image, namely words or words that can express sensory experiences, such as vision, hearing, and feelings. Image can be divided into three, namely sound images, auditive, visual images, visual, and touch or touch image, tactile image. Image can cause the reader to see, hear, and feel what the poet is experiencing. 4. Concrete words, namely words that can be grasped by the sense that allow the appearance of an image. These words are associated with figures or symbols. For example, the concrete word snow symbolizes the frozenness of love, the void of life, etc. Meanwhile, the concrete word swamp can symbolize a dirty place, a place to live, earth, life, and so on. 5. Language style, namely the use of language that can enlarge or enhance the effect and cause certain connotation. Figurative language causes poetry to become prismatic, meaning that it radiates many meanings or is rich in meaning. Language style is also called figure of speech. The kinds of figures of speech include metaphors, similes, personification, and many more. 6. Rhyme or rhythm is the sound equation in poetry, both at the beginning, middle, and end of a line of poetry. Rhyme includes first, onomatope or imitation of sounds, for example, or which gives a magical effects to Sutaji, say poem-based poetry. Second, internal forms of sounds patterns or alliteration, assonance, final equation, initial equation, rhyme intermittent, beat rhymes, full rhymes, repetition of sound or words, and so on. Repetition of word or expression. Rhythm is the low high, short length, loud and weak. Sound rima is very prominent in reading poetry. B. The inner structure of the poem. First, theme or meaning, sense. The medium of poetry is language. Then, poetry must be meaningful. Both the meaning of each word, line, verse, and the whole meaning. Second, feeling, namely the poet's attitude towards the subject matter contained in the poetry. Third, tone, namely the poet's attitude towards the reader. Poets can convey themes in a patronizing, dictating tone, work with the readers to solve problems. Leave the problem with the reader, with an arrogant tone. Consider the reader stupid and despised, and so on. 4. Mandate or purpose or intention, namely the message the poet wants to convey to the reader. The role of poetry. First, media of communication. Poetry is a medium of communication because it has a message sender, medium, and message recipient. The message is in the form of experience that the poet wants to convey as the sender of the message, in the form of attitudes, feelings, and imagination of the speaker. Second, improve creative thinking processes. Poetry does not only convey the feelings of the author, but also as a process of creativity creation. The words in the poetry are carefully chosen so that they are read with a beautiful meaning and convey the message of the poet precisely and represent many meanings. Third, improve language skills. Poetry can be used for literature learning that can improve language skills. Reading, listening, speaking, and writing skill can be done through poetry. 4. Supporting character formation. Poetry in literature learning has used value if it can provide entertainment and benefits. The benefits of poetry in learning literature is the provisions of values related to the purpose of human life.
Thank you, Bagus. And now, I would like to invite Winnet to present. So to Winnet, time is yours.
Novelist and poet Lang Leav was born in a ravine camp when her family were fleeing the Herman Roach regime. She spent her formative years in Sydney, Australia, in the predominantly migrant town of Cabramatta. Among her many achievements, Lang is the winner of a Canto Spirit of Youth Award, Social Fellowship, and Goodreads Reader's Choice Award. Her first book, Love and Misadventure 2013, was a breakout success, and her subsequent poetry books have all been international bestsellers. In 2016, Lang turned her attention to fiction, and her debut novel Sad Girl shot to #1 on the Straits Times and other bestseller charts internationally. Lang actively participates in international writers' festivals, and her tours consistently draw massive crowds. With a combined social media following of 2 million, Lang's message of love, loss, and female empowerment continues to resonate with her multitude of readers. Lang has been featured on CNN, SBS Australia, Intelligence Squared UK, Radio New Zealand, and in various publications, including Fiju, Newsweek, The Straits Times, The Guardian, and the New York Times. She currently resides in New Zealand with her partner and fellow author, Michael Fountain. I will tell you about Lullabies specification. About Lullabies book specifications, author Lang Leav, publisher Andres McMill Publishing, LLC, number of page 250 page. The sequel of Leav's first book of poems, love, and misadventure, Lullabies is a great read for anyone in or out of love, which made it a perfect gift for any poetry lovers. The book features illustrations by Leav, and the cover alone catches the eye. A soft black base with the detail embellished in gold serves as a picture frame of sorts for a young woman resting peacefully. The book is divided into 3 parts: duet, interlude, and finale. An illustration accompanies the beginning of each new chapter. Duet features the title poem Lullabies, which describes how you can miss the details of a love's life and still know them romantically. What makes Leav a strong poet is her ability to write about an array of romantic experiences that a variety of people can relate to. Although some of her poems felt too strange for someone, but another person could read it and totally feel the words in a different way. She does an excellent job of putting her feelings into words from the beginning of the book till the end. Lang Leav's writing definitely improved in this book. Leav writes with her usual simple but actually complex style, with a musical theme to this book. Now we will talking about the poetry When by Lang Leav, retrieved from Lullabies. Composed of 5 stanzas, each stanza consists of 4 lines, has rhymes that rhyme in almost every stanza and line. Now we'll be talking about the meaning. So, the poem is telling about human hope slowly disappeared for whatever reason, feeling frustrated, anxious, and keep on to hope that hopefully is still there every night before closing your eyes. However, if the pain at the loss of hope continues, then only you can erase it. Then start a new hope with a new love. But keep in mind, the meaning of this poem can be different from each point of view of the reader.
Poetry about Lang Leav. When every dream has turned to dust, and your highest hopes no longer soar, when places you once yearned to see grow further away on distant shores, when every night you close your eyes and long inside for something more. Remember this and only this, if nothing else you can recall. There was a life, a girl on sled, where you were loved the most of all. Dreams and hopes are part of someone's life, but what if those dreams and hopes have disappeared from someone, or that person doesn't have faith in it? Look farther into the bottom of the earth that knows yourself deeper. Press it on yourself that life is much more important than we imagine. Treat the heart, calm the mind, and love yourself forever.
What I can get from this film is we have hope. It is a very natural. However, if the hope we hoped for is lost, what should we do? Yeah, rest first, treat wounds, let it go, and create new hope. Thank you.
And I think at the end, this poem means that even though what we dream of doesn't go as we want, we losing hope or even not feeling loved, there will definitely and there have been times when we are most loved. And in this case, I think it's when we were little on when at the childhood phase when we are really loved by our parents, and I think it's a pure love. So I think this poem is talk about a pure love. And by the way, finally we come to the last session of this seminar. Thank you all audience for your participation. Hopefully the information that we have shared today will be useful for all of us. Thank you for your attention and attending the seminar. I am Karin. I'm sorry if there was a mistake of the word, and see you.